Welcome to my show, Mr. Westworld. Mr. Westworld, welcome to my show. Welcome to my show, Mr. Westworld. Mr. Westworld, welcome to my show. What up, good people? I'm gonna run some more content this evening. This time we're gonna talk about some of the creepiest places in Tennessee that you should never end up. And yeah, I'm old enough to know it's a few places that you should never go. And I think the first one is one of them. They're going to talk about the Bell Witch Cave. Believe me, there's nowhere you really want to be messing around at. But with that being said, let's roll that content.
There is something different about the dark. Not the Nashville honky tonks, not the Smokies at sunset. Something older than that. Something that got here before the roads did, before the towns did, and has been waiting quietly ever since. Every state has its ghost stories. But Tennessee has places where the ghost stories are not stories at all. They are warnings. The locals who grew up near these places do not tell them around campfires to scare each other. They tell them so you do not make the same mistake somebody else already made. Hi, my name is Thomas, and this is Lost U.S. Towns. We spend most of our time on this channel uncovering the communities that vanished, the towns that got swallowed by water, stripped by coal companies, and bypassed by railroads that did not care who they left behind. But Tennessee has a darker layer underneath all of that history. Places that did not just disappear, places that went wrong. Bob told us that 11. Bell Witch Cave, Adams, Robertson County. We start at number 11, and we are not easing into anything. If you grew up in Tennessee, you already know this name.
Yes.
If you did not, you are about to understand why the Bell Witch is the only American haunting with its own entry in the Library of Congress. Adams sits in Robertson County, about an hour north of Nashville.
Hey guys, this Bell Witch Cave has been talked about, man, ever since I was old enough to remember. So, yeah, it's enough to make the hair crawl on your legs, like that type of scariness. But I'm gonna continue to run this content, my people.
Nashville, along the Red River, quiet farming country, the kind of place you drive through without slowing down. Underneath a limestone bluff on the old Bell family property, there is a cave that locals have refused to enter after dark for over 200 years. It starts in 1817. John Bell, a prosperous farmer, begins hearing knocking on the walls, chains dragging across floors. His daughter Betsy wakes up with her hair pulled and her face slapped by something that leaves no mark and casts no shadow. Whatever was in that house was interactive. It quoted scripture. It sang hymns. It had opinions about people it did not like. And John Bell was at the top of that list. Andrew Jackson visited the farm in 1819 and left the next morning refusing to spend a second night. A man who fought the British and won, gone before breakfast. John Bell died in 1820. A vial of strange liquid was found near his body. They gave some to the cat, and the cat died immediately. Nobody was charged because nobody knew what to charge. The cave is still there. Park staff will take you through it in daylight. After dark is a different conversation. Robertson County farming families do not scare easy, and they will not go near that bluff at night. That tells you everything.
Go on out there
Number
at night
10,
if you want to.
Sensabaugh Tunnel, Hawkins County. Hawkins County sits in the far northeastern corner of Tennessee, where the roads get narrow fast and cell signal disappears faster. Somewhere on a back road outside Churchill, there is a tunnel so completely lightless that people who drive into it report their headlights dimming, their engines stuttering, and their GPS units going blank. Sensabaugh Tunnel was built in the early 1900s to carry a local road under a railroad line. It is less than 50 feet long. On a clear afternoon, it is completely unremarkable, a concrete tube through a hillside. You would drive through it and feel absolutely nothing. At night, it is something else entirely. The legend involves a man named Edward Sensabaugh and a baby thrown into the creek that runs through the tunnel floor. Every version of the story agrees on one detail. Visitors who cut their engines and sit in the darkness report hearing an infant crying, not from the creek, from directly beside the car. Skeptics will tell you the tunnel's acoustics distort the sound of moving water into something the human brain reads as a human voice. That explanation exists, and it is reasonable. It does not explain the engine stalls. Multiple independent accounts describe people who came to debunk the tunnel and ended up walking out instead of driving. The creek still runs through it. And after dark, Hawkins County takes the long way around.
You think?
Number 9. Linville's Railroad Underpass, Giles County. Linville is a small town in Giles County in southern Tennessee. It has a beautiful historic district, antique stores, and a couple of churches. On a Saturday afternoon, it is genuinely charming. There is one place nobody from there will walk through after dark. The railroad underpass at the edge of the historic district runs beneath an active rail line through a passage older than anyone in Giles County can reliably date. It is narrow, low-ceilinged, and when a train passes overhead, the sound is something you feel in your back teeth. What attaches to this underpass is less a ghost story and more a persistent atmospheric wrongness. You get halfway through and you stop wanting to be there. Not afraid exactly, just absolutely certain you should not be standing in that spot at that hour. Dogs plant their feet. Horses go sideways. People who live 2 blocks away walk 4 blocks around it after dark.
Wow.
No documented history of violence. No famous incident. No name attached to it. Just a tunnel that has made generations of locals feel, without being able to explain why, that something inside it is waiting to see who comes through next. Rotherwood Mansion, Kingsport, Sullivan County. Rotherwood Mansion sits on a bluff above the Holston River in Kingsport, Sullivan County, just below the Virginia
Beautiful
border.
landscape.
The original structure was built in the early 1800s by Frederick Ross, a Presbyterian minister who named his estate after a Sir Walter Scott novel. He was clearly a romantic, but what happened to his family was anything but. His daughter watched her fiancé drown in the Holston River on the morning of their wedding day. The second owner lost his fortune and hanged himself from the staircase banister.
Well, dang.
A third period of ownership ended in a fire that the official record calls accidental and that locals have never believed. What has persisted for over 150 years is the dog. Large, coal black, no collar,
Wow.
no owner. It appears on the grounds before something terrible happens. At the river's edge,
It's beautiful.
at the tree line, at the end of the driveway in the fog. Then whatever it was, warning about happens, and the dog disappears until the next time. The current structure is not the original mansion, but the grounds are the same grounds. And people in Kingsport who know what that property is do not walk its perimeter after dark. If you see a large black dog on that riverbank, you turn around and you go home. Number 7, the Lost Sea, Monroe
These
County.
last few places.
Stay with me
I
on
hadn't
this
heard
one
of.
because it starts as a natural wonder and ends somewhere considerably darker. The Lost Sea sits in Sweetwater, Monroe County, about an hour
Monroe
south of
County.
Knoxville, off Interstate 75. It is the largest underground lake in the United States, 4.5 acres of water, sitting in total blackness beneath the Tennessee hills. Tours run daily, on a guided boat during daylight hours. It is genuinely beautiful. Here is the part the brochure moves past quickly. The Cherokee used this cave system for ceremonial purposes, practices they considered sacred and kept deliberately hidden from outsiders. When European settlers explored it in the 1800s, they found the bones of a Pleistocene jaguar, dead
Wow.
for approximately 20,000 years, that had fallen through a surface opening and could not get out. In 1905, a 13-year-old boy named Ben Sands crawled through a passage too narrow for any adult to follow and found the lake. Nobody believed him for weeks. The is significantly larger than the toured section. Passages remain unmapped. Water depth in certain sections has never been accurately measured. Cave divers who attempted to explore the underwater portions turned back, citing equipment anomalies and, independently, the same overwhelming sensation. The feeling of being observed from below. The tours are wonderful. Go during business hours. Do not ask the guides about the unmapped sections. They will change the subject and keep walking. Number 6. Cumberland Gap, Claiborne County. Cumberland Gap is the mountain pass in Claiborne County where Tennessee, Virginia, and Kentucky all meet in the Cumberland Mountains. Daniel Boone came through here. Hundreds of thousands of settlers crossed through it on the Wilderness Road, heading into the interior of the continent. It is one of the most historic geographic features in the entire country. It is also, by any reasonable measure, soaked in more violent human death than almost anywhere in the American South. During the Civil War, Cumberland Gap changed hands 4 times between Union and Confederate forces. Thousands of men died in and around this pass over a period of 3 years. The mountain absorbed all of it. There are sections of the surrounding ridgeline where you are almost certainly walking over unmarked graves because the armies buried their dead where they fell and did not always leave markers that survived 160 years of Appalachian weather. In 1996, the National Park Service completed a tunnel through Cumberland Mountain, rerouting U.S. Route 25 East Underground through a passage that runs directly beneath ground that served as a military fortification and burial site. Workers during the tunnel's construction reported sounds during the night shifts that the project engineers could not attribute to any mechanical source. Knocking from inside the rock. Voices in sections of tunnel that had not yet been opened to the air. The tunnel today is a perfectly normal 2-lane highway tunnel that you drive through in about a minute. Most people don't feel anything. Some people feel something the moment they enter and cannot explain. The mountain has been holding on to things for a long time. A tunnel does not change what the mountain remembers. Number 5. Huggins Hell, Great Smoky Mountains. The name alone should tell you something about how the people who named it felt about this place. Huggins Hell is a dense, nearly impenetrable thicket of rhododendron and mountain laurel located in the Great Smoky Mountains in Sevier County. It covers a section of the high ridgeline between Madron Bald and Gabes Mountain, and it is one of the most disorienting natural environments in the eastern United States. In the Smoky Mountains, dense rhododendron thickets like this one are called hells. That term is not poetic. It is practical. When you enter one, you understand immediately. The branches grow so close together and so low that you cannot walk upright. The foliage is so thick that the sky disappears. The ground underneath is uneven, wet, and covered in a layer of dead branches that collapse under your weight without warning. Your compass behaves strangely in some sections because of the iron content in the underlying...
Hold up. I don't mean no harm. So if it's all these obstacles to deal with to begin with, please tell me why am I visiting this place? Because I don't understand why.
Wrong. Hikers who have entered Huggins Hell without staying precisely on the trail have become disoriented within minutes in conditions of full daylight. People have gone missing in these mountains for reasons that were never fully explained. Not just in the 1900s. Recently, the Smoky Mountains have one of the highest rates of unresolved missing persons cases of any national park in the country. Most have explanations. Some do not. At night, in Huggins Hell specifically, even experienced backcountry hikers who know the Smokies the way most people know their own neighborhood will not go in. Not because of any specific documented event, because the place itself communicates something, clearly, and without ambiguity, that you should not be there after the light goes. I
Don't
believe
sound
them.
like you need to be there at all.
Number 4, Brinkley Female College, Fayette County. Fayette County sits in the far southwestern corner of Tennessee, cotton country along the Wolf River east of Memphis. In the town of Somerville, There are the remains of a building that the county has been quietly trying to decide what to do with for the better part of a century. Brinkley Female College was established in 1857 as a school for young women from prominent Tennessee families. It operated for several decades as a respected institution. The building was large, imposing, built in the Greek Revival style that wealthy antebellum Tennessee loved. It should have been a landmark of civic pride. In 1893, a fire moved through the upper floors of the building at night. The official record lists the cause as undetermined. The official record also lists the number of students who did not make it out, and that number, for a fire whose cause was never determined in a building full of sleeping young women, has never sat right with the people of Fayette County. What remained of the structure stood for decades afterward in a state of partial ruin. The local stories that attach themselves to it over the generations are not the theatrical kind. No apparitions at windows, no dramatic encounters, just the consistent, quiet testimony of people who went near it after dark and came back describing the same thing: the sound of movement on the upper floors of a building that no longer had fully intact upper floors, the smell of smoke in air where nothing had burned in 100 years. The site today is largely reclaimed by vegetation, but the foundation stones are still there. And the people of Somerville, who grew up hearing about that fire, hearing the number that followed it, do not go near those stones after sunset.
You think?
That is their right. And if you understand what happened there, it is hard to argue with them. Number 3, Devil's Triangle, Robertson County. We are back in Robertson County, which, if you have been paying attention, should not surprise you at all. This is Bell Witch country. The ground up here has been strange for a long time, and it does not confine itself to one cave on one property. Several miles from Adams, 3 rural roads converge in a configuration that locals have called the Devil's Triangle for as long as anyone can trace the name. The roads form a rough triangular circuit through farmland and second-growth timber. Ordinary roads, 2 lanes, gravel shoulders, the kind of roads you find all over Robertson County.
So crunchy. When training for
report their engines stalling at the same point each time, approximately at the center of the southern leg. Not every driver, not every night, but enough drivers, over enough decades, reporting the same location precisely, that the pattern has become part of the local understanding of that area in the way that local knowledge accumulates over generations without ever making it into any official record. Animals are the detail I keep coming back to. Farmers whose land borders the triangle describe their livestock moving to the far side of their pastures in the evening and refusing to graze near the fence lines that border those 3 roads after dark. Cattle, horses, dogs, animals that do not share our capacity for storytelling or suggestion or collective imagination. They just move away from the fence and stay away until morning. Robertson County soil is underlaid with limestone, which produces genuine geomagnetic anomalies that can affect both engines and animal behavior. That is a real scientific explanation, and I am offering it sincerely. I am also telling you that the farmers who live there know all about limestone and geomagnetic fields, and they still do not drive that circuit at midnight. Make of that what you will. Number 2, Slaughterhouse Hollow, Sevier County.
That's another name.
When I tell you this hollow has had that name since before the Civil War, I want you to sit with that for a moment. This was not a name applied by teenagers trying to scare each other. This was a name given by the people who lived and worked in this part of Sevier County in the mid-1800s, and they had their reasons. Slaughterhouse Hollow cuts through the hill country of Sevier County in eastern Tennessee, not far from where the logging operations that would eventually drive the creation of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park were doing their most aggressive work in the late 1800s and early 1900s. The logging companies that stripped these mountains did not do gentle work. They clear-cut everything. They built splash dams that flooded hollows, and they tore out stream banks. They left behind a landscape that took generations to begin recovering. What they also left behind in certain hollows, in places where the work was hardest, where accidents were most frequent, and where the company had the least interest in documentation, were people. Not buried properly, not recorded, just left. This is not speculation. This is the pattern of industrial logging in Appalachia, documented by historians who have spent careers reconstructing what the companies did not write down. Men who died in the hollow stayed in the hollow because getting them out cost time, and time was money.
Crazy.
Slaughterhouse Hollow specifically carries accounts going back over 100 years of sounds at night that do not match any wildlife native to this part of Tennessee. Not animal sounds. The accounts describe them consistently and uncomfortably as human sounds, coming from the tree line, moving parallel to anyone walking the hollow after dark. Nobody walks the hollow after dark. The name was a warning long before the logging companies ever arrived. Whatever they left there did not make it better. Number 1, the ruins of Elkmont's Millionaire's Row, Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We talked about Elkmont earlier on this channel when we covered Tennessee's vanished towns. They were the wealthy Knoxville families who built their summer cabins in the Little River Valley, beginning in the 1910s. These were the lifetime leases the Park Service granted when the Great Smoky Mountains National Park was established in 1934. The leases expired in 1992 and were not renewed, leaving more than 70 cabins abandoned inside the national park, with no one to maintain them and no plan beyond letting them deteriorate back into the mountain. What we did not get into is what has happened to those cabins since. Elkmont's Millionaire's Row is a cluster of large vacation homes sitting in various states of decay along the Little River inside the national park in Sevier County. Some have been partially stabilized by the Park Service. Others are open to the weather, their floors collapsed, their roof lines dropping at angles that suggest they will not survive another decade of Appalachian winters. The Park Service does not schedule solo overnight patrols at Elkmont.
So what's the haunted part
That is a
about it?
documented operational policy. The official reason is resource allocation. When rangers are asked off the record whether there is another reason, they tend to pause before answering. Hikers who camp at the Elkmont campground, which sits adjacent to the cabin ruins, report sounds from the direction of the empty buildings during the night. Not wind sounds, not animal sounds, the specific sounds of a structure being used. Footsteps on wooden floors that still hold. Doors that are no longer hung in their frames, moving as though on hinges. Voices at a register too low to resolve into words. The families who built those cabins returned to them every summer for 60 years. Some of them were born there. Some of them died there, spending their last summer in the cool mountain air above the Little River, because there was nowhere on earth they would rather have been. They were told to leave, and they left. But people who loved a place that much, who built their entire understanding of summer and family and home around those particular rooms and that particular river, sometimes do not entirely leave. The synchronous fireflies that fill the Elkmont Valley every June draw thousands of visitors who sit in the meadow and watch the light show in complete silence, which is genuinely one of the most beautiful things Tennessee has to offer.
What that?
Most of them have no idea they are sitting in the front yard of a ghost town. Most of them never look back at the dark line of trees where the cabins are, and the shapes that sometimes appear in windows that have no glass and have not had glass in 30 years. The rangers who do walk those grounds after dark do not talk about what they see, but they walk it fast, and
They
they do
need y'all
not
to
go
keep coming and spend your
alone.
money.
11 places, 11 different ways Tennessee keeps its secrets after dark. Most states have ghost stories. Tennessee has geography: the hills, the hollows, the caves, the river bluffs, the mountain thickets. This state has been accumulating its history in the landscape itself for a very long time, and some of that history does not rest quietly. If you grew up near any of these places, or if you know a Tennessee location that deserves its own video,
Oh yeah, that
leave
was
it in the
pretty
comments
interesting.
below.
I'm quite sure some of you guys know some of them places. I know a couple of them, but yeah, that was some good content. Oh, sweet Tennessee. With that being said, my good people, I am out of here like always. Peace.